Chapter 2. Echoes. They found a booth in the far corner of Overload, tucked beneath a flickering monitor that cycled endlessly through tournament brackets, player bios, and promo reels. The glow painted their faces in shifting shades of blue and violet. Martin slid his half-empty drink aside and pulled out a slim tablet already queued with replay files. His movements were quick and practiced, betraying a layer of preparation beneath his laid-back posture. Oliver leaned back with his arms folded, scanning the crowd one last time. He felt the weight of eyes lifting. This corner was quieter, shielded. He could think here.
Start with your round of 16 match,
He said. Martin tapped the screen and loaded the footage.
It wasn't great.
He admitted.
I overcommitted early and only made it through because the other guy got cocky. Flank collapsed faster than I expected.
Oliver didn't comment right away. He watched with clinical focus, narrowing his eyes at key transitions.
Lucky isn't scalable,
He muttered finally. The two of them slipped into rhythm quickly. Martin queued up footage. Oliver broke it down. Every mistake, every inefficiency, every missed scouting drone. He didn't sugarcoat his feedback. His tone was blunt, his critiques surgical. But he didn't waste time either. It was the voice of someone who'd spent years refining failure into insight. Martin didn't flinch. He asked follow-ups, smart ones. When he didn't understand something, he asked again. He never defended bad decisions. By the time they'd burned through 3 matches, the first round of drinks was gone. Martin flagged the bartender with a subtle wave.
Another?
Oliver hesitated, then nodded.
just one.
The bartender returned with 2 more, sliding them across without a word. The screen above them had switched to a slow-motion highlight reel. Explosions, reversals, clutch saves. Martin's handle appeared once, in a montage of a perfectly timed pincer maneuver. Oliver raised an eyebrow.
Not bad.
Martin grinned.
That's practically a compliment.
Oliver's gaze drifted across the room, half idly, half out of habit. That's when he noticed her. Not because she stood out in some obvious way, no cosplay, no loud neon. But something in the way she moved made her different. She wasn't part of the usual crowd. She didn't hover near the screens or scan for merch drops. She was scanning for someone. Her hair caught the bar light, brown, long on one side, the other cropped just below the ear. Intentional, sharp. Her expression was calm but focused. She moved like she knew exactly where she was going, even if the path wasn't straight. Then a group of players shuffled past, blocking his view. When they cleared, she was gone. They dove back into the footage. A few patrons wandered over, curious, but Martin waved them off with a casual shake of his head. This wasn't casual anymore, this was focused. This was war prep. Oliver's demeanor shifted as the night went on. He leaned in closer, rewound segments repeatedly, occasionally tracing imaginary troop paths across the tabletop with a finger damp from condensation. He spoke more fluidly now, detailing early game pressure techniques, fog of war misreads, faint push timings. His eyes lit up when explaining optimal transitions between economy bursts and tech shifts. It wasn't joy, but it was something like it. Purpose, maybe. Familiar territory. Then came a new voice.
You two look like you're either running a tournament or plotting a military coup.
Oliver looked up. Martin's face lit up instantly.
Sofia,
He said, rising slightly from his seat with a grin.
this is the genius I was telling you about. Oliver, meet my cousin.
She looked mid-20s, the same girl Oliver had clocked earlier as she scanned the bar with quiet intent. Her long dark hair was tucked into a grey knit beanie, one side cropped just below the ear. She wore an oversized denim jacket layered over a faded band tee, a leather satchel slung diagonally across her chest, and scuffed boots that looked more lived-in than styled. What stood out, though, were her eyes, one blue, one green. Not flashy, just unmistakable. She exuded calm, the kind of presence that filled a space without effort.
Hey,
She said, sliding into the booth next to Martin without waiting for an invitation. She took in the scattered napkins, empty glasses, and the replay paused mid-frame.
so this is what strategy looks like? Bottles, smudged screen, and a general with bags under his eyes?
Ugly and accurate.
Martin replied.
Mostly ugly.
She smirked, then turned her attention to Oliver.
You're Owl Hollow, right?
Oliver blinked. Yeah.
You played smooth, hard loss, but the way you read terrain density in the early phase, that was clean. Like ballet with airstrikes clean.
Oliver wasn't used to compliments, especially not ones that sounded like metaphors. He nodded awkwardly. Martin jumped in.
I've roped him into coaching me for tomorrow. Already improved my strat by, 40%.
Only 40?
Sofia teased.
You said he was a genius.
He's more into dismantling my ideas.
Martin said, nudging Oliver's shoulder. Sofia reached over and swiped Martin's beer for a sip.
Mind if I hang out?
Oliver shrugged.
Up to him.
Martin gestured dramatically.
Stay. With your moral support, I might just survive the quarters.
They got back to it. Sofia leaned in now and then, asking questions, sometimes sincere, sometimes to poke fun. She seemed to enjoy watching them talk shop, but her curiosity wasn't fake. She asked things like,
Why not bait that push with a fake build?
or
Aren't you giving up vision by relocating?
Oliver answered her the same way he answered Martin, short, honest, clear, and she listened. Every time, the hours bled together in soft blue light, their drinks emptied and refilled. Notes were scribbled in the margins of a bar napkin. At some point, the highlight reel looped twice, then faded into a static tournament bracket. Oliver caught himself smiling, just a little, as he explained an old counter-meta strategy he'd pioneered but never published. Martin's eyes widened. Sofia laughed at the absurd name Oliver had given it back in high school. For the first time that day, Oliver wasn't thinking about the loss, or the stage, or the camera that had cut away just before he stood. The bar had thinned by the time they packed up. The tournament highlight reel had looped 3 times, and even the diehards glued to the PCs in the back were beginning to call it a night. The air smelled of old drinks and overstayed ambition. Napkins littered the tables. Someone behind the bar was wiping down glasses with the dull rhythm of closing time. The weight of the day had finally started to settle into every corner of the room. Martin stretched, arms overhead, his spine popping audibly.
I'm crashing.
He mumbled, grabbing his jacket.
I need 4 hours of sleep and a miracle.
Sofia, leaning lazily against the booth wall, gave him a crooked smile.
Drink water first, or you'll wake up with the reflexes of a corpse.
Thanks, nurse.
Martin replied, grinning.
Good night, generals.
He saluted them both with 2 fingers and stumbled off toward the exit with exaggerated dramatic flair. Sofia lingered, collecting her satchel and pulling her beanie snug over her ears.
Martin ditched me again.
She said, slinging the strap over one shoulder.
Mind walking me back?
Oliver hesitated, not out of uncertainty, just default reflex.
Sure.
Outside, Prague had shifted into its quieter rhythm. The neon chaos had calmed. Streetlights shimmered on puddles from a brief evening drizzle. The scattered noise of buses in the distance and late-night chatter behind closed doors made the city feel like it was exhaling. They walked without urgency. Just 2 shadows moving side by side through side streets and back alleys lit by old lamps. The streets were glazed in faint reflections. Traces of tournament posters, pop-up booths being dismantled, and paper cups crushed underfoot. Sofia kept her hands in her coat pockets.
You know you don't talk much, but when you explain stuff, when it's about the game, you're kind of unstoppable.
Oliver gave a half shrug, eyes focused ahead.
It's easier in the game. Cleaner. I know where everything goes.
You think like a player,
She said.
but you explain like someone who could teach an army.
They passed a shopfront lit with soft blues, a display of custom keyboards flickering gently in the window. Behind it, a neon-lit gaming mouse hovered on a rotating stand like a crown jewel.
You always this quiet after a loss?
She asked, her voice lighter now.
Only when it mattered.
Oliver said. Sofia tilted her head slightly.
Did this one?
He didn't answer immediately.
Yeah.
She nodded like she understood.
Martin's good.
She said.
And tonight, you made him better. Not just smarter. You made him listen. And trust me, that's rare.
Oliver didn't speak. The lamplight cast long shadows that stretched past them, distorting their shapes into something older,
I used to play.
Sofia said after a beat.
RTS, you know. Ranked. Competitive. Grew up on it, actually. Martin and I used to play together every weekend, even before we could spell half the unit names.
Oliver glanced over.
I got pretty good.
She added with a small shrug.
Not pro-level, but high enough to pull my weight in ranked. Then the noise started, everyone shouting, breaking things down like it was a post-mortem every time you missed a scout drone. I quit when it stopped being fun.
I know that kind of noise.
Oliver said quietly.
I figured you did.
She smiled gently, though her eyes looked tired.
That's why I stayed tonight. You're not loud. You're grounded. You make the noise quiet down.
She paused, then added,
Tried other stuff after that. Arena shooters, mostly. Faster pace, cleaner stakes. I still play sometimes. Helps me stay sharp.
There was something unreadable in her tone, like it meant more than just game sense. Oliver didn't press. They walked a little further, silence stretching comfortably between them. It wasn't awkward, just restful. The kind of quiet where nothing needed to be filled. A turn down a narrower street brought them to her hotel. Older building, ivy climbing up its weather-worn facade. A flickering chandelier hung behind frosted glass doors. A single lantern swung slowly above the entrance.
This is me.
She said, stopping at the gate. Oliver paused beside her. The moment hung. Sofia hesitated, then added,
You're not what I expected when Martin said strategist.
What did you expect?
he asked.
Someone louder, cockier, a headset influencer who talks over everyone, not someone who listens first. He usually follows people like that.
Oliver almost smiled.
And what do you think now?
I think you're quietly dangerous,
She said.
but in a good way.
Dangerous doesn't usually come with napkin diagrams.
She laughed, pulling her hair back behind her shoulder.
Thanks for walking with me.
Thanks for staying.
Oliver said. Sofia reached for the door handle, then paused.
See you tomorrow?
He nodded. Yeah. She opened the door, then turned back one last time.
Don't overthink it. He trusts you. I can see why.
With that, she stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her. Oliver stood there a moment longer, staring at the place where she had been. The night wrapped around him again, cool, calm, no longer quite so empty. He turned and walked back the way they'd come, past shuttered cafes and flickering crosswalk signs. His own hotel wasn't far, but the walk stretched longer than it needed to. Not because he was lost, but because it felt good not to rush. When he reached his room, he let himself in without turning on the lights. The glow from the city outside lit the walls just enough. He dropped his backpack by the door, tossed his hoodie onto the chair, and sat on the edge of the bed with a quiet sigh. He didn't turn on the TV. He plugged in his tablet and checked the match bracket again. The names shifted slowly across the screen. He wasn't thinking about the loss anymore.